The commission arrived not through the mundane clatter of emails, but by a cream-colored envelope, delivered solemnly by a courier whose expression seemed carved from stone. The address was embossed in dark green ink, reading, "The Greymere Foundation." Inside, the letter bore an invitation that sent Alara Vance's heart racing, a chance to interview for the restoration of the Greymere ancestor portrait. The letter boldly labeled the painting's deterioration as a quiet tragedy for cultural memory. The mentioned fee, a sum that glimmered like an unattainable dream, left her breathless at the thought of the independence it could afford her. With determination woven into her very being, Alara set out for the Greymere estate, a sprawling, melancholic expanse nestled in the Scottish borders, where the mist wove itself through the landscape like a ghostly veil. As she approached the grand, grey-stone baronial house, a fortress of memory loomed before her, its cold stones seeming to echo the weight of centuries. The owner, Alistair Greymere, a man in his 60s, moved with a stillness that mirrored the house itself, as he led her through a long gallery lined with the austere faces of generations. And there it was, the ancestor portrait. It dominated the room, larger than life, depicting a man clad in the elaborate garb of the early 17th century. His visage was not handsome. Rather, it was marked by a long face and pale gray eyes that bore a peculiar, unsettling patience. The painting was a masterwork, yet time had inflicted its cruel dance. Fine cracks marred the surface like a dried riverbed, and the varnish had yellowed, casting a sickly pall over the subject. But it was the eyes that captivated her, those pale orbs now crazed, flaking in a starburst pattern, as if the painted gaze was under extraordinary pressure. "It's not just age, is it?" Alara murmured, her instincts as a conservator prickling with unease. "No," Alistair replied in a low voice that seemed to echo through the cavernous room. "It's cyclical. Every 30 years or so, the portrait destabilizes. The last restorer, a brilliant man, completed the work in 1992. A week later, he threw himself from the North Tower." His finger pointed towards a leaded window at the end of the gallery. "He left only a note. I understand now. He is so very lonely." A sensible person might have fled, but Alara felt a thrill of challenge rather than fear. To her, the painting was not a cursed object. It was a puzzle, a unique degradation pattern that promised the ultimate test of her skills, and the fee would buy her freedom. She accepted the commission with a nod, her resolve strengthening. Setting up her studio in a high-ceilinged room bathed in north light, she positioned the portrait on a heavy easel. The first step was documentation, each crack and blemish a silent accusation against time's cruelty. Under the magnification of her tools, the croquelure around the eyes revealed a bizarre pattern. The cracks radiated outward from the pupils, as if something deep within the portrait was struggling to escape. When she examined the layers beneath, her multispectral camera unveiled something even more peculiar. Instead of preparatory sketches, she stumbled upon lines of tightly packed text encircling the irises, a script she did not recognize. The cleaning process began, and as she delicately lifted the yellowed varnish with tiny swabs, an uncanny sensation enveloped her. She felt the eyes of the portrait bearing down upon her, watching with an intensity that sent shivers along her spine. As the clarity of Magnus's eyes returned, the artist's work revealed a depth that seemed to pull her in. Days blurred into nights, and she began to dream, not of the man himself, but of being him. She felt the oppressive weight of his doublet, the constriction of the ruff around her neck. She was engulfed in an echoing hall of silent observation, aware of countless other presences flitting at the edges, while the central consciousness, the eye of the portrait, remained fixed, immovable, achingly isolated. Awakening from these dreams, Alara was not frightened, but rather filled with an indescribable empathy. She found herself whispering to the portrait as she worked. "Who were you? What did you do to be trapped like this?" The text around the irises, once obscured, became legible under her powerful loupe. It was not a language, but a sigillistic notation, reminiscent of a soul bind, a ritual meant to anchor a consciousness to an object, often as punishment. Legend had it that Magnus Greymere was a notorious warlock, his family's fear leading them to bind his sight, his essence, to the very painting that portrayed him. With each stroke Ilara made, the portrait transformed further. Magnus's gaze grew stronger, as if he were awakening from centuries of sleep. The temperature in the studio dipped as she worked, and she found herself drawn deeper into the restoration, compelled to free the image from its prison. One late night, after hours of meticulous work, she stepped back from the portrait. It was complete. Magnus Greymere gazed out with a clarity that had been absent before, his sadness profound and immense. It wasn't malevolent. Rather, it was a raw, aching loneliness that felt familiar, an echo of her own heart. In that moment, their eyes met, and a silent communication transcended words, resonating through the very fabric of their beings. She felt his centuries of watching, the parade of lives he had seen come and go, none ever comprehending his solitude. He became the ultimate audience, and she understood. They shared a deep-rooted loneliness that mirrored one another. A seductive whisper echoed in her mind, unspoken yet clear. You see me. You could join me. You would never be alone again. It was not a threat, but an enticing proposition. The kind of bonds that promised an escape from the chaos and fragility of the living world. A part of her longed for that eternal connection, to become part of the artwork, forever witnessed and understood. The studio, the world, faded away, and all that remained was his gaze, a beacon of solace in the abyss. With a surge of will, Ilara wrenched her eyes away, throwing a black velvet drape over the painting, plunging those piercing gray eyes into darkness. She sobbed, her body trembling as she fought against the pull of the portrait. It dawned on her that she had not been battling a ghost seeking freedom. Instead, she had been grappling with the part of herself that yearned to be part of that eternal silence. She meticulously completed the contract, applying the final varnish with mechanical precision, never allowing herself to gaze directly at Magnus's face again. The report she handed to Alistair was clinical, devoid of any mention of the sigils or the binding ritual. She collected her fee and left the Greymere estate, her heart heavy with unshed tears. Ilara purchased a small bustling gallery in the heart of the city, immersing herself in the world of bold abstract modern art, pieces that eschewed the gaze and the capture of souls. She filled her gallery with chatter and laughter, determined to keep loneliness at bay. Yet, in the hours of darkness, she kept the velvet drape from her studio, hanging it in her bedroom as a reminder of the choice she had made. Sometimes, in the stillness of night, she awoke, feeling that familiar, patient attention upon her, a reminder that the connection was forged, even in refusal. Magnus Greymere had seen her, truly, and a piece of her remained eternally reflected in his gaze. Now she understood the last restorer perfectly. He had not been driven mad by a monster, but had been seduced by the promise of an end to his loneliness, a temptation so profound that returning to the world of unseen people was an unbearable prison. He had leapt not to escape terror, but to reach the only permanence he believed remained. Ilara fought against this understanding every day, filling her life with noise and superficial connections. But in her quiet moments, she felt it, the calm, gray, timeless pull of the portrait's gaze, a sanctuary of endless witness, patiently waiting for her to stop looking away.